Man, the way this started, you could feel it was about to blow. The room's heavy, the air's thick, cameras locked in, and DeSantis, bro, he's got that look. You know the one, the I've got her cornered grin. He leans forward, papers in hand, ready to pull one of those gotcha moments he loves so much. And for a second, you think he might actually pull it off. But Jasmine Crockett, she's not blinking. Not a twitch, not a flinch. Just that calm, locked stare, the kind that flips a man's confidence upside down. You could hear the tension crackle. DeSantis keeps talking, keeps swinging, trying to bait her into a slip. And then, silence. 3 long seconds of absolute stillness. You can hear the camera shutters clicking, the reporters frozen, even DeSantis glances up like, did I just win? But nah, that silence wasn't surrender. That was the setup. Because when she finally opens her mouth, she doesn't respond, she detonates. Boom! She starts with that low, deliberate tone, the kind that says, you just walked into my line of fire, and she flips the script instantly. Governor, she says, you came here to talk about accountability, but it seems like you left yours back in Florida. Boom! The crowd reacts before he can even blink. You see DeSantis try to cut in, but Crockett doesn't give him an inch. She doesn't yell, she doesn't overplay it, she just owns the moment. Calm, sharp, surgical. Now here's where the trap becomes clear. Every point he thought he was making, she's already 2 steps ahead. He accuses her of avoiding tough questions. She smiles and drops receipts live, quotes, timestamps, facts, right from the floor, the same ones he was supposed to know. And now you can see it, the energy shift. DeSantis leans back. That confidence? Gone. The man realizes he's not leading anymore. He's reacting. And that's the beauty of Crockett's game. She doesn't fight you head on. She lets you dig your own hole, then hands you the shovel. The reporters start whispering. One of them even chuckles under his breath because what was supposed to be his ambush just turned into her masterclass. And she keeps it rolling too. Smooth transitions, quick pivots, and then she drops this line, the one that kills the room. You know, Governor, it's wild. You talk about leadership, but every time accountability shows up, you duck faster than a Florida hurricane. The place erupts. People laugh, some gasp, and you can almost see DeSantis thinking, how do I get out of this? But there's no way out. She's already got him boxed in by his own words. That's when it hits you. This wasn't luck. This was a trap from the start. She let him talk. She let him posture. She let him think he was steering the conversation. And then, with perfect timing, flipped it like a switch. You can tell the staffers in the back knew what just happened. They're whispering, looking down, pretending to take notes. The moderator's trying not to smirk. Even the cameraman zooms tighter because they know they're capturing the viral moment, the moment DeSantis fell right into it. And Crockett, she's not done yet. She ends with that quiet knockout. Not a shout, not a punchline, just the final line, smooth as ice. Next time, Governor, make sure the trap isn't yours. Mic drop. The room goes silent. And then chaos. People clapping, phones out. Clips are already hitting X and TikTok within minutes. You can feel it happening in real time, the birth of a viral moment. And the best part? DeSantis is still sitting there, forced smile, eyes darting, trying to look unfazed, while everyone around him knows he just got played. That's the Crockett effect. She doesn't just win debates, she rewires them. She makes her opponent build the stage for her victory, then burns it down while they're still standing on it. So when people say Jasmine Crockett lured DeSantis into his own trap, this is what they mean. It wasn't random. It was strategy, patience, and timing down to the breath. And that's why the clip blew up. Not just because she clapped back, but because she waited. She let him think he was in control. She let him talk himself right into the narrative she was waiting to write. That's not politics. That's art. Because sometimes the loudest moment is the silence right before the explosion. Yup, this next moment, straight up cinematic. The kind of political beatdown you can feel through the screen. The second Crockett starts flipping through her folder, you already know something's about to drop. DeSantis is sitting there all puffed up, chin high, ready to double down. He's thinking this is his moment to look tough on TV, but he doesn't realize he's sitting on a live grenade, and she's holding the pen. Out of nowhere, Crockett pulls out his sworn deposition. Not a quote from the media, not some random op-ed, his own damn words, word for word. And the second she starts reading, you can literally see the blood drain from his face. That fake grin, gone. His whole vibe switches from confident to cornered in under 10 seconds. The room goes dead quiet, like everyone's realizing they're witnessing a trap snap shut. She's not yelling. She's calm, methodical, surgical, each line landing harder than the last. In your sworn statement from Davis versus Florida, she starts, voice steady as steel, you said, and I quote, accountability begins with leadership. She looks up, lets it hang. Every camera zooms in. You can almost hear the collective gasp. Now DeSantis knows he's cooked, because the argument he's been hammering all day about responsibility and leadership failures, she's dismantling it piece by piece using his own signature. He tries to interject, throws out some half-baked defense, but Crockett's already waiting. She's got receipts on receipts, flipping through pages like a lawyer, cross-examining her own witness. She hits him again. So which version of you should we believe, Governor? The one under oath or the one trying to score points today? The Senate room reacts instantly. A few muffled laughs, some audible gasps. Even the moderator's eyebrows shoot up. You can feel the power shift, like someone cut the power to his mic and handed her the switchboard. And that's the wild part. DeSantis walked in like the boss, but Crockett just made her footnote. He's sitting there blinking, jaw tight, trying to remember how to breathe. Every move he makes now feels defensive. The trap isn't just sprung, it's televised. And she doesn't rush it either. She lets each word settle like she's building a rhythm, turning every fact into a punchline. The more she talks, the smaller he gets. And then she drops the line that turns the whole thing from a clapback to a headline. Funny how the truth sounds different when you're not the one in control. Boom. That's the sound of an ego breaking live on camera. The energy in the room flips instantly. Staffers in the back are trying not to laugh. Someone coughs just to fill the silence. DeSantis is staring at his papers, pretending to read, but everyone knows he's just trying not to look at her. She's still calm, still poised, like she's conducting a masterclass in composure. You can feel the audience at home leaning in. Every second of that clip is pure gold. Her voice sharp, his reaction priceless. It's not just a debate anymore, it's a demolition. Because she didn't just argue harder, she used his own blueprint to collapse his house. And right when you think maybe, just maybe, he might recover, she lands the knockout. The one line that freezes the whole Senate room cold. She looks him dead in the eye and says, if accountability scares you this much, maybe leadership isn't your lane. Silence. Absolute pin drop silence. DeSantis blinks twice, like he just got hit by a truth he wasn't ready for. The crowd doesn't even know how to react. It's that perfect pause before everything explodes online. Then the whispers start. Somebody at the back mouths, damn. Phones go up, clips start rolling. The hashtag is already forming before she even leans back in her chair. And DeSantis? He's stuck there, still on camera, realizing the whole narrative just flipped against him. That's the brilliance of Crockett. She doesn't shout to win. She listens, she waits, and then she strikes with precision. Using his own testimony, his own ego, and his own timing. It's not just defense, it's poetic justice. When the footage hits social media, you can tell it's going to trend. Trapped him, one caption says. She flipped his words like a boomerang, says another. And that's exactly what it was. A verbal boomerang that came full circle, fast, and flawless. By the time the moderator moves to the next question, the damage is done. DeSantis looks like he wants the floor to open up. Crockett's leaning back, calm smile, victory in silence. She didn't just survive the ambush, she rewrote the whole scene. That's how Jasmine Crockett wins.
not by shouting over her opponents, but by letting them hang themselves with their own words. And tonight, she didn't just win the exchange, she set the gold standard for what a real political trap looks like. Because sometimes the most devastating weapon in a debate isn't volume, it's precision. And she just proved it, live.
Bro, this next part, straight chills. The kind of moment that makes you stop scrolling, lean forward, and just watch. The whole Senate room's tense, like even the air forgot to move. Crockett leans in, voice calm as a heartbeat, eyes locked on DeSantis. And then she drops the line every lawyer wishes they wrote. Governor, would you like me to read your exact words to the committee? Boom. Instant silence. You can literally feel the oxygen leave the room. Cameras click, flashes pop. DeSantis freezes mid-expression, that cocky smirk flickering like bad Wi-Fi. For a split second, he doesn't know whether to speak or breathe. That line didn't just land, it nuked the man's credibility. Crockett doesn't blink. She lets the silence marinate, like a chef letting the flavor sink in. Every second that passes feels like a full minute. She's giving him rope, and he's just standing there, caught in his own contradictions. You can hear a couple murmurs ripple through the crowd. Someone in the back whispers, "Oh, she got him." DeSantis tries to play it off, clears his throat, reaches for his papers, but his hands are shaking just enough for the cameras to catch it. He mutters something about being taken out of context, but Crockett doesn't even look at him. She's flipping through the document with surgical precision, lips curled just slightly like she already knows how this ends. When she finally reads his quote out loud, it hits like a verdict. The same words he used to grandstand weeks ago are now weaponized against him, line by line, in front of the entire committee. You can see the regret wash over his face, like he's realizing every word he ever said could be used as ammo. And that's when it happens. The camera pans across the senators. Some are stone-faced, others trying not to laugh. One even scribbles something down, probably "don't mess with Crockett." The crowd's quiet, but that kind of quiet that's too heavy to hold. The silence isn't empty, it's loaded. She closes the folder slowly, sets it on the desk, and says in that soft, icy tone, "Governor, words matter, especially when they're your own." That's it. No shouting, no theatrics, just precision. And somehow, that lands harder than any rant ever could. You can almost hear hearts thumping through the mics. DeSantis looks stunned. The man who came in swinging now looks like he's hoping someone calls a recess. He stammers, tries to shift blame, but every syllable feels like a desperate reach. Even the moderator hesitates before moving on, like everyone needs a second to process what just happened. That's the Jasmine Crockett playbook. Calm face, cold voice, nuclear impact. She doesn't need to yell. She just picks her target, lines it up, and fires truth like a sniper. And the audience at home? Bro, they're losing it. Twitter's already lighting up. One post reads, "That's not a clapback, that's case law." Another says, "DeSantis just got turned into evidence." You know it's bad when even his supporters start going quiet online. But Crockett's not done, not even close. She looks back at him steady and composed and pivots like a pro. "You've spoken plenty about leadership," she says, "but let's talk about who's actually living under those policies." And that's where the emotional gut punch lands, because now she brings real voters into the room. She starts naming towns, schools, communities, people who've actually felt the consequences of his decisions. "I've spoken to teachers who can't afford rent, parents terrified of losing healthcare, and veterans waiting months for basic care. So when you talk about leadership, Governor, tell them what accountability looks like." You can see it. This isn't just about politics anymore. It's personal. The senators shift in their seats. Even the reporters drop their pens for a second, just listening. The tone shifts from confrontation to conviction. She's no longer dismantling him, she's delivering a message. And that's what makes it powerful. Because Crockett doesn't just embarrass her opponents, she exposes them. She turns their sound bites into stories, their slogans into receipts. She takes their spin and plants it right back in the soil of reality.
DeSantis tries to interrupt again, but this time the moderator cuts him off. It's over. The room knows it, he knows it, and she definitely knows it. Crockett leans back, silent again, but the kind of silence that says, I said what I said. And as the clip ends, that's the image burned into everyone's mind. DeSantis blinking under the lights, Crockett calm and unshaken, the echo of her line still hanging in the air. Would you like me to read your exact words to the committee? That wasn't just the question. That was a statement, a warning, and a masterclass in how to flip power without raising your voice. Because in politics, the loudest noise doesn't always win. Sometimes it's the quietest line, the one delivered with ice in the voice and fire in the intent, that changes everything. And that's exactly what Jasmine Crockett just did.
Man, this part right here, it hits deep. Forget the back and forths, forget the politics. Crockett changes the whole damn vibe. She leans forward, voice soft but heavy, and says, let's talk about the people behind your policies. Boom. The air shifts instantly. The cameras stop chasing reactions and start listening. You can almost feel the audience lean in. Grandma Mary, she says, 78 years old, drove 60 miles because her polling station was shut down. And just like that, it's not numbers anymore, it's faces. She stood in line for 3 hours in the Florida heat just to be told her ID was out of district. You could hear someone in the crowd mutter, damn. The room that was buzzing a minute ago goes still. DeSantis tries to stay composed, but his jaw tightens. He knows what's coming next. Then Crockett keeps going. Or take James, the paramedic who worked a double shift and still showed up to vote, only to find out the machines closed early. Or Carla, a single mom who had to choose between voting and losing her babysitter. The audience starts to shift, eyes widening. This isn't stats. This is pain. Forget stats. Crockett starts naming people, and every story cuts deeper than the last. Grandma Mary driving 60 miles just to vote? That hit different. A paramedic missing the polls? That hit harder. This wasn't politics anymore. This was real-life receipts. She's putting flesh and blood on the data he's been using as talking points. DeSantis tries to jump in, throws out his usual line about election integrity, but Crockett doesn't even look at him. She just tilts her head slightly, that quiet, "Are you serious?" expression. Integrity, she repeats, almost whispering. Tell that to the 70,000 voters who never made it through your new requirements. The crowd murmurs again. You can hear chairs creak, pens stop scratching. The tension's no longer about power. It's about truth. You can feel the gut punch through the screen. Crockett's not raising her voice. She doesn't need to. Every sentence lands like a slow hammer. Then she does something genius. She pulls up a sheet of paper, not opinion, not speculation, straight data from his own state office. Let's take a look at the numbers you're so proud of, Governor, she says, cool and collected. According to your own Department of State, these restrictions didn't stop fraud. They stopped voters. She pauses, looks right at him, then adds, and you know who those voters are, don't you? Working class folks, veterans, seniors, people without the luxury of taking a day off just to exercise a constitutional right. Boom. The whole room freezes again. DeSantis tries to recover, throwing out his usual lines about maintaining fairness and preventing misuse, but it's done. She's got him cornered by his own data. His integrity numbers are now evidence of suppression, and she's walking the audience through it line by line. This is what happens, she says, when policy forgets people. The line hits like a sermon. You can feel that mix of empathy and outrage building in the room. Even the senators who've been quiet are suddenly paying attention. Some look down, others nod, slow and subtle, because they know she's right. And then just when you think she's wrapping it up, she twists the knife. Governor, your administration's own audit showed less than 0.01% of fraud cases in the last decade, less than 0.1%. So when you say you're protecting elections,
Who exactly are you protecting them from? Silence. Straight up pin drop silence. That's the moment the whole narrative collapses. The same integrity argument that's been his shield just turned into the smoking gun. And Crockett's not gloating. She's steady, unshaken, delivering truth like a closing statement. DeSantis leans back, hands clasped, staring at the desk. You can tell his team's melting down behind the scenes. The moderator glances towards him, waiting for a response, but there's nothing, no words left to spin. Crockett takes a breath, looks at the panel, and says, "You call it security. I call it silence. And silence is what kills democracy." The words hit hard, goosebump level hard. The crowd doesn't move for a second, like they're all waiting to exhale. And then it happens. The first clap, then another, and suddenly the whole place breaks into applause. Not loud, rowdy applause, but just this heavy, emotional sound of people realizing they've witnessed something real. A rare political moment where truth actually cut through the noise. You can almost hear the clip going viral already. Hashtags popping up, hashtag real receipts, hashtag the trap, hashtag Crockett effect. Commentators replaying that one line over and over. Who are you protecting elections from? It's the kind of question that sticks in your head and won't let go. Crockett sits back, calm, collected. She's not celebrating. She doesn't have to. The damage is done, the message delivered, the trap complete. DeSantis, still silent, still stuck, because how do you fight back against your own facts? That's the Jasmine Crockett difference. She turns stats into stories and stories into impact. She doesn't argue to win. She argues to remind that democracy isn't numbers on a spreadsheet. It's people with names, faces, and stories that deserve to be heard. And that's exactly what she just made everyone feel.
Man, this is the kind of moment that lives rent-free in your head. Crockett slams the mic, eyes locked on DeSantis, and drops it cold. 23 years, 50 million ballots, 153 fraud cases. That's 0.0003%. Boom! The whole room just stops breathing. You can literally hear the air shift, like everyone just realized the math killed the myth. That's not a debate. That's a demolition. The cameras zoom in, reporters freeze mid-keystroke, and even the sound tech flinches, because that mic drop wasn't just volume, it was precision. Every syllable hits like a bullet made of truth. DeSantis blinks, trying to process it, but Crockett's already ahead. She leans back, calm as ever, letting that number echo through the silence. This isn't drama, it's data, and that's what makes it lethal. Because suddenly, all those years of election integrity slogans, fraud prevention speeches, and voter ID crusades collapse under one stat: 0.0003%. The crowd's whispering now, people turning to each other like, wait, did she just say that? Yeah, she did. Loud and clear. That number hit harder than any campaign ad ever could. It's clean, it's cold, and it's irrefutable. You can't argue your way out of math, and Crockett knows it. She's not yelling, she's not preaching, she's presenting a receipt with surgical precision. This is that rare moment where logic doesn't just win, it embarrasses. DeSantis tries to recover, mumbling something about maintaining confidence in elections, but the look on his face says it all. He knows he's done. Crockett lets him talk for a few seconds, nodding like a teacher letting a kid explain why they didn't do their homework. Then she cuts in. Calm, measured, deadly. Confidence isn't built by fear, she says. It's built by truth. And the truth is, you've scared millions of voters over a problem that barely exists. Boom. Another gut punch. The audience murmurs again, even a few conservative members shift uncomfortably in their seats. You can see the cracks forming in real time. Then Crockett does what she does best. She flips the emotional switch. You know who pays the price for your confidence campaign, she asks? Grandma Mary, the veteran in a wheelchair who couldn't reach her polling station. The college kid who got their registration rejected over a typo.
Her tone softens just enough to sting. You built a wall around democracy and told the working class to climb it. That line lands heavy. The camera pans across faces that look different now, less defiant, more unsure. Reporters start typing again, fingers flying, because they know this is the clip that's going to explode online. Then Crockett moves in for the kill. "Governor," she says, "you've spent millions chasing ghosts of fraud, while real people, your people, are being blocked from the polls." The words are quiet but razor sharp. You don't protect democracy by locking it up. You protect it by letting it breathe. You can see DeSantis' composure cracking. He leans forward, hands clasped, eyes darting like he's searching for an exit. But Crockett's not letting go. "Let me say it again," she says. 23 years, 50 million ballots, 153 fraud cases. You called it a crisis. I call it a myth. The audience gasps, like they just watched a knockout punch in slow motion. DeSantis opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. That's when you know it's over. The myth of mass voter fraud, dead, in 3 seconds flat. Then Crockett does something genius. She doesn't gloat. She pauses, looks around the room and says, "You keep saying you're defending the Constitution? Well, let's actually read it." The crowd leans in again. It says, "The right to vote shall not be denied or abridged." Not manipulated, not restricted, not twisted into a political talking point. Denied or abridged. That's the line you crossed. She lets the silence sit for a beat, then finishes, "So maybe it's time we stop pretending suppression is security." You can almost feel the collective whoa ripple through the crowd. Some clap, others just sit there, stunned. It's not loud applause, it's that heavy, stunned respect that hits when someone just changed the conversation. DeSantis stares down, pen tapping nervously on the desk. The moderator shifts awkwardly, clearly unsure how to transition after that nuclear drop. Because how do you follow that? Crockett just ended an entire narrative with one stat and one constitutional mic drop. Online, the clip goes wild within minutes. Comment sections are filled with 0.0003%. Remember that? Hashtags like Crockett Math, the receipts, truth drop start trending. Even political analysts who usually play it safe are tweeting things like, "Crockett just changed the voter fraud debate forever." Meanwhile, DeSantis' team scrambles behind the scenes, spinning numbers, drafting statements, but it's too late. That one stat is everywhere. Memes, tweets, TikToks, everywhere. It's not just a political fact anymore, it's a cultural moment. Because Crockett didn't just end his argument, she ended the illusion. And she did it with math, not noise, truth, not theater, calm, not chaos. That's the Crockett effect. You don't see it coming, but once it hits, there's no recovery. And this time, she didn't just win the room, she owned the narrative. Next up, she goes constitutional on him. The final round. And this time, she's not playing defense. She's rewriting the whole damn script.
The air in that Senate room was thick, not with noise, but with history. Crockett leans forward, calm but unshakable, and says the line that sends a chill down every spine in that chamber. "You took an oath to the Constitution, not to decide whose votes matter." No shouting, no theatrics, just raw truth. Clean and surgical. You could hear a pin drop. Even DeSantis stopped moving, like someone had just hit pause on his whole career. Her voice stays steady, but every word lands like a hammer on marble. 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, 19th Amendment. She doesn't just name them, she invokes them, like summoning the spirit of every civil rights fight that ever happened in that room. Equal protection, the right to vote, the right to participate, not suggestions, not privileges, constitutional guarantees. You can feel the energy shift. It's not a debate anymore, it's a reckoning. She takes a breath, glancing around at faces that now look different, a little smaller, a little quieter.
You call it election integrity. She says, voice low but cutting. But the Constitution doesn't say some people. It doesn't say the right people. It says the people. All of them. Boom. That's it. That's the line that flips the moral compass of the whole damn room. DeSantis tries to speak, his lips parting like he's about to fire back, but nothing comes. Because what do you say when someone just reminded you that the document you claim to defend is the one you've been bending? He glances at his notes, then at the cameras, like maybe the red light will save him. It won't. Crockett presses on, not angry, just certain. If you want to talk about law and order, then start with the highest law of the land, the one you swore to uphold. That's when a murmur ripples through the press seats. Reporters know what just happened. She didn't just out-argue him, she out-anchored him. She tied his entire stance to the one document no politician can argue against without losing everything. You can see it in real time, the transformation from debate to defeat. DeSantis' hand fidgets with the pen, but he doesn't write a thing. The camera catches it. His silence, her poise, the stunned audience. This isn't just a gotcha moment, it's legacy footage. The kind of clip that political science professors will play in classrooms 10 years from now. Crockett leans back, almost like she's done teaching for the day. But then she goes in for the final touch. Not aggression, but grace. You can pass bills, you can sign laws, but the Constitution will always be bigger than any one man's ambition. That's when someone in the back, maybe a staffer, maybe a spectator, lets out a quiet wow. It's not loud, but it's real. DeSantis tries to speak, his lips parting like he's about to fire back, but nothing comes. Because what do you say when someone just reminded you that the document you claim to defend is the one you've been bending? He glances at his notes, then at the cameras, like maybe the red light will save him. It won't. Crockett presses on, not angry, just certain. If you want to talk about law and order, then start with the highest law of the land, the one you swore to uphold. That's when a murmur ripples through the press seats. Reporters know what just happened. She didn't just out-argue him, she out-anchored him. She tied his entire stance to the one document no politician can argue against without losing everything. You can see it in real time, the transformation from debate to defeat. DeSantis' hand fidgets with a pen, but he doesn't write a thing. The camera catches it. His silence, her poise, the stunned audience. This isn't just a gotcha moment. It's legacy footage, the kind of clip that political science professors will play in classrooms 10 years from now. Crockett leans back, almost like she's done teaching for the day. But then she goes in for the final touch. Not aggression, but grace. You can pass bills, you can sign laws, but the Constitution will always be bigger than any one man's ambition. That's when someone in the back, maybe a staffer, maybe a spectator, lets out a quiet wow. It's not loud, but it's real. DeSantis exhales sharply, trying to force a smile, but the cameras don't lie. He's been cornered, not by rhetoric, but by the very principles his office stands on. Crockett glances his way, gives the smallest nod, and says, "That's all I have." The moderator doesn't even know what to say. The whole chamber just sits there for a beat, frozen in that perfect mix of silence and awe. Then the whispers start. Journalists huddle, typing like mad. Clips are already uploading. You can hear one reporter mutter under their breath, "She just constitutionaled him to death." It's half a joke, half an admission. Everyone in that room knows what they just witnessed. Not a takedown, but a transformation. Outside the chamber, the ripple turns into a wave. Cable news producers scramble to cut the footage. TikToks pop up within minutes. Edits of her line, slow motion replays of DeSantis blinking under the lights, hashtags flood in, hashtag Crockett effect, hashtag constitutional checkmate, hashtag history made. Even conservative commentators can't dodge it. One anchor sighs on there, "Well, facts are facts. Crockett came prepared." And here's the wild part. It's not just about politics anymore. Veterans, students, teachers, everyone's sharing the clip. People saying, finally, someone used the Constitution the way it was meant to be used, to remind the powerful that it protects the people, not their pride. It's bigger than left or right. It's about truth. By the time the sun sets, the story's everywhere. Headlines read, Crockett turns the Constitution into her closing argument. DeSantis left speechless. Late-night shows replay the clip with stunned silence before the audience breaks into applause. Even on conservative networks, anchors try to pivot, but can't hide the respect in their tone. Because deep down, everyone knows that's how you end a fight. Not by shouting louder, but by standing taller. Not with anger, but with principle. Crockett didn't just drop a mic. She dropped the blueprint for how you defend democracy in the 21st century. Her words weren't loud, but they cut through decades of noise. And as one analyst said on air that night, she didn't just win the moment. She reminded America what the Constitution actually sounds like. That's why hours later, even the opposition had to admit it. Jasmine Crockett didn't just win, she made history.